Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it.
I know. I got you. What can we?
We're live.
Hi. Yeah, we're Yeah, that's it. That's that. How's everyone doing today? We hope all you guys are good out there. We got a lot to talk about today.
What are you watching? Is that a Canucks jersey?
Okay, no. This jersey is the Florida Everblades. This is an ECHL team, and I was talking about this is the wonderful. I was talking about Twitter and how we were down in the Everglades looking for panthers and stuff like that, like the actual endangered species panthers with my son, and around back there, and then it was alerted to the fact that this team existed. They had me over and gave me a jersey. They're really nice people, and yeah, kind of cool. There are a couple of guys in the NHL right now that I played for them. And it's interesting. It's just another Florida hockey team, but I like the kind of logo is kind of cool. It's like a skate, but an alligator. Yeah, I think it's cool.
Clever. I've seen worse.
Yeah. No, it's not bad. Not bad.
I think it's a cool color. I like the green and blackish color. I think this is also the same kind of. It's more like an alligator with a hockey stick on the side. You can see that. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's like an alligator with a hockey stick. And so we're doing this show, and then after this show, we got a surprise for everybody out there. We're going to be doing, Russ and Mike do a rock and roll podcast.
Rockology, it's called
Rockology, which I guess is posted on Sportsology, correct?
Yeah.
And today we're going to be doing the. We're going to be going on there right after this show. We're going to put a link in the room so you guys can check out. Right after this show, we're going to do the top 10 rock keyboardists of all time, and we'll be doing that. You can come on there and check it out. We would love for you guys to come in and watch and hang out in the chat room of that show. So that'll be after the show. We'll be ending the show and then going to do that. All right, so
I'll have a different link.
Yeah, I'll have a different link and everything. But we'll put the link in the chat room and everything like that. You'll be able to get it in different places as well. So we have some noise going on at Russ's. Ignore that. He's getting the work done.
It'll be gone soon.
It'll be gone soon. But we got, before we get into last night, which was very interesting. Go ahead, Russ. You start.
So last night, Vlad Guerrero Jr. hit 3 home runs, drove in 7 RBIs. Pretty big game. That hadn't been done in a little while, but one of the earlier guys to do it was Boog Powell, who played for the Baltimore Orioles. And that was in the 60s. So only 3 guys have done it, like, in the last, I don't know, since the 60s. So it was kind of an amazing feat. If you had Max Scherzer in your fantasy team like I did, you got killed. 17 scoreless innings or something coming into that game. But Mike, Vlad Guerrero, if he ever gets in shape, will be one of the best players in the league.
He has gotten in shape. He lost like 45 pounds.
Yeah, he still looks a little spongy.
I don't think he's going to be ripped like Conor McGregor or something like that. But he's doing all he can.
Yeah, I mean, he's in better shape than he was last year. That's for sure. But
let's just say this. I had the opportunity, Russ, when I was working for Sporting News Canada, that I went to, because he made his AAA debut in Buffalo, and was in the media scrum and asking a bunch of questions, and it was curious. Now he was like 21 years old. He was traveling with his grandmother, and his grandmother was cooking all of his meals. So,
yeah, my grandmother used to cook really fatty foods.
Yeah, that just tells you that he was not suffering in terms of caloric intake.
Well, it just also says that his grandmother was a good cook. So we'll.
Yes.
I mean, that's the good news there. I'm going to answer this for Alexander now. Yeah, I grew up a Ranger fan, and I wrote a couple of Ranger books. So yes, that's the NHL team I grew up liking.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Hates them now, but he grew up liking them.
I am realistic about them now.
Obviously, it's shown how much he hates them in all our discussions we've had on here. But yeah, we'll get into that later. Okay, so let's start. Here we go. I'm trying to get a photo up on my blog, but we'll do that in a second. All right, today is April 28th, right?
I don't know. Is it?
Last time I looked.
I think so.
It is. Just go.
Okay, got it. Hello, Hockey World. It is 28, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. It's the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in the comings and goings and how we come here around. And if you want to support us, you can easily do so by going to patreon.com/Patreon. Patreon.com/hockey. And you can support us there with if you get anything out of the show, we'd appreciate it. If not, tell your friends about it, share it around, retweet it, things like that.
If not, screw you.
If not, I don't know why the hell you'd be here right now, because there's plenty of other things to do, as we've learned. So anyway, here, so Thomas, Randy says in the chat room, and when guys notice this, I think it's pretty interesting that Thomas says that I was dead on with the Rangers. All right, so here we go.
Oh my God! Please.
Now, Thomas, we know is a
Thomas's ex-burner account.
What was that?
Thomas's ex-burner account.
No, he's an Islanders fan, and now as we sit here today, the Rangers, of course, win a big game last night. So did the Bruins. Now, both the Rangers and the Bruins have won 7 of their last 9, which is pretty impressive on both parts. I mean, they're both tearing it up. They're 2 of the hottest teams around.
The Bruins could do that.
Well, yeah, of course, we all thought the Bruins could do something like that.
You all thought that? Okay.
No, that's better. No, I mean that's better than they played all year for sure.
It is.
But is my mic sucking again? What the hell? Really?
Yeah, it's choppy again.
I give up. All right, let me just hold on.
I don't think it's the mic. I think it's the internet.
I do think it's the internet.
I don't know how to fix that right now.
No, don't worry about it. Just play through.
Sorry. All right, I'm going to play through. I'm sorry, guys, if it's doing that. My mic sucks today, or the internet. I'm going to have to wire this tomorrow better for the for my Ethernet cable. I think my Wi-Fi router must just be shot or something.
And
all right.
I took care of the picture, so it's up.
Oh, thank you, Mike. All right, so and I do want to get into my blog too, which I think is a little more interesting than this. So we won't talk too much about this because we've talked about this every day. But now the latest thing is now the Islanders dropping 3 in a row to the suddenly red hot Capitals. The Islanders now are only 5 points ahead of the Rangers as well. They've played one more game. They do have one game. The Bruins have 2 games in hand, or 4 points ahead. But the Islanders play the Rangers this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 2 games in a row. So that can be fascinating as we play through this. I mean, the Rangers win both those games in regulation. Now it's a 1-point game, and the Islanders still have 1 game in hand. Now suddenly you have to admit that it's a battle. If it's a 1-point game with 1 in hand, it's a battle. So, Russ, if the Rangers were to win both those games in regulation this weekend, you cannot simply say it's over.
I can, because the Islanders are only going to have to get points from any other team the rest of the time. The Rangers are not winning out. And I will tell you this, the Rangers
are the Islanders.
But the Rangers won't sweep the Islanders either. They won't.
Well, okay. They might not, but all they have to do is win twice. I mean, it's not impossible that they sweep the Islanders. I mean, the chances are very. But if they sweep the Islanders, will you finally admit to me on Monday that this is not over? With its 1-point difference with 8 games to go, and you're going to say it's not over?
Because they don't have 8 games. That's one thing. They have fewer games than that.
All right.
So that's one thing. The other thing is, like, the Islanders lost 1-0. The Rangers are not capable of beating the Islanders 1-0. That's another thing.
The Rangers also have way more offense. They don't. Way
more offense until the Islanders play in a defensive shell, which they're going to do.
Oh, excuse me. I have a comment. Here.
Yes.
I think the Islanders are going to play the Rangers very physical, and I think that is something you could do with this team right now because they're not set up for it. They have Brendan Smith, but they don't have anything else that's really tough on that team, and I think that's the way they're going to play them.
Well, wait a second here. I mean, okay, all of a sudden now, Ak, you're picking against Calder Trophy winner Ilya Sorokin and the New York Islanders?
Well, it depends if they play him or not, but yes, I could be. I'm not picking against them. Again, I love how I'm misrepresented on the show all the time. I am not picking again. I am not saying that I think it's going to happen. Even I'm just saying that to say it's over and impossible is ridiculous.
So what about the games against Buffalo and New Jersey that the Islanders have left? The same as we were talking about with the Bruins, which now the Bruins are not out of it. The same we were talking about with the Penguins, and the Penguins are not falling out of it. It's the same thing for the Islanders too now.
Yeah, no, and both. I mean, New Jersey has played the Islanders tough this year, even when they've been struggling. And Buffalo is playing a lot better right now. So I don't want to play either of those teams when you have to win. Having to win And being a favorite is not always the greatest thing in the world when you have to win.
But what this is, Zach, is the hockey version of whack-a-mole. It's like, okay, oh, it's the Bruins, boom, 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 boom. Oh no, it's the Islanders, boom, boom, boom. I mean, it's at a certain point. I mean, they're 5 points behind the Islanders, and the Islanders have a game in hand. I'm not saying mathematically it's over, but it's over. I mean, like, okay, the range. Come back to me after the Rangers win both games in regulation, Thursday and Saturday, and then you could say, okay, now they have a chance. Right now, if the Islanders don't drop the ball, it's over. I can only deal with the here and the now of what's going on.
But the here and the now is that they've got 2 games against the Islanders coming up.
Okay, so you're expecting...
As of now, they have a chance.
Okay, here's what you're expecting, though. You're expecting the Islanders to drop the game in hand, drop the 2 to the Rangers, and not win out against Buffalo and New Jersey. And all that whole scenario isn't going to happen.
I mean,
I don't think they're going to get 8 points out of those 4 games against Buffalo and New Jersey. I do agree with that. That won't happen. But I don't think they could very easily win out against those teams for sure.
I mean, you realize if both of these games go to overtime, the Rangers are screwed. It's over. Yeah, and the Islanders can play for that.
I mean, honestly, I find the races for playoff spots right now, currently in the NHL, not exciting.
No, I agree.
But the races for positions are extremely exciting. Okay, let's just take it quickly, division by division.
Before you do that, Mike, I wanted to point out one thing about the Islanders. One guy they're really missing is Devin Taves, because Ryan Pulock is not scoring on the power play. He's got 1 assist and he's got no goals on the power play. He's got 1 goal on the season. We all think it's going to happen for him, but it hasn't. And so when they just gave away Devin Taves for a pick, they lost a guy that was running their power play, and they actually could use him back. And that is something where we said at the time they should have tried to get rid of Leddy or a guy like Clutterbuck or something like that. Ladd at the time.
Yeah. I think they did. I think they did try to get rid of those guys. I honestly do. I don't think. I mean, you don't think that. I mean, they're smart. They're as smart as we are when it comes to that. That if they could do that, they would have. I think go ahead.
They needed to give up a first-round pick to dump Andrew Ladd's contract on somebody. You needed to do what the Leafs did with Marlowe a few years ago. It's painful, but to keep a guy, because right now, I mean, Russ pointed this out, and when we were talking about this, I said, well, the reason that their power play is not successful with Pulock is Pulock can't lug the puck up the ice. Taves was a good puck rusher. He could game the zone. Now his shot wasn't fantastic, but it was good enough. Yeah. Pulock has a howitzer from the point, but part of the point man on the power play, part of his responsibilities is to lug the puck up the ice, and he doesn't do that very well.
Right.
So now, just sticking with the East here, again, I don't think the Rangers trying to catch Boston or the Islanders is compelling. But right now you have 2 races in that division that are very compelling. Washington and Pittsburgh are a point apart for first place in the division.
Right.
And the Islanders and Boston are a point apart for 3rd or 4th place. You're going to have a lot of dickering back and forth between those 4 teams. I mean, do you think Washington wants to play Boston, or do you think Pittsburgh wants to play?
That's what I'm actually writing about tomorrow, because there's really interesting matchups that go on with those teams. And you're right about that. Like these are not what you'd expect everybody to be. And by the way, those people, I know the Islanders have gone 5-1 against the Devils this year. I get that. But at the same, the last 3 games have been 1-goal games. 2 of them have been at least one was in a shootout. They played them tough. That's what I was saying. I'm not saying they're going to beat them. But anyway, the concept of what Mike's saying is really true. Like, I honestly don't think, when I think about those 4 teams, I can't think of any team in there that I think is altogether better than the other 3. Like, I feel as if all 3 or any team in there they say is altogether worse than the other 3. I think that those 4 teams are about as even. I mean, I put the Islanders still as probably the best playoff team in that group because of the defense and the goaltending. But
they all have different strengths and weaknesses. Yeah.
Right. They all have different strengths and weaknesses, and they all have shown an ability to go cold for streaks too. I mean, and right now, what you're seeing is the Bruins, experience. I mean, Brad Marchand's having an unbelievable year. He really is. I mean, just like it has to be taken into account that guy, is like should be in the MVP talking as well. But I mean, point wise, maybe not. But when he scores goals and his timing on things is unbelievable.
With the Bruins, I think that the factor with them that's going to be the most important leading up to the playoffs is and Bergeron missed a game with a lower body injury. Didn't sound like anything serious, but it's getting all their defensemen back.
Yeah.
It's getting Tuukka Rask right, and he's been back for a while. And it's just general health getting into the playoffs. And if they're able to be healthy, now with Taylor Hall on the second line to provide some sort of secondary offense to the big line with Pasternak, Bergeron, and Marchand, if they have a healthy defense and Rask healthy, then I think they throw a scare into anybody who they play in the first round.
I do too.
Move to the north. The race is over with. Montreal winning against Calgary. I'm sorry, it's over with. It's 6 point. It's over with. Calgary. Hannafin's out for the year now. They're not playing They're playing under 500 under Daryl Sutter. It's over with. I mean,
it looks like Montreal is going to kind of back into the playoffs. I agree with you.
And once they get in, they will be a very dangerous team.
Well,
right.
I
don't think anybody in Toronto right now is overlooking, saying, "Oh, great, we got the Canadians."
I don't think so either.
The Canadians play them tough, and I'm glad that the Leafs have that mentality, because if they took them for granted, that's a surefire way of losing in the.
Well, the one team that is going to be going to be a problem for the one team that Canadians have a real serious shot on is Toronto, just because of the aspect of that. It doesn't seem to matter who's good or who's bad in those teams over the years. When they play each other, they play each other. They become their own. They're their own entity, kind of. And I think that it doesn't matter. Toronto's 20 points ahead of Montreal or Montreal's 20 points ahead of Toronto. They're gonna beat the hell out of each other. It's gonna be a crazy series. But the only thing is that you have to come back to the fact that they just don't have.
They don't have enough scoring, but
and Allen's not. If Jake Allen's their goalie,
well, yeah, but the expectation is that Price will be back. But the only thing that can throw things for a loop here is Winnipeg is cratering. They've lost 4 in a row. Now Ehlers is out for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. Wheeler's been in and out of the lineup. Their defense, they really didn't improve it with the addition of Jordy Ben. They're 6 points ahead of Montreal. I don't think Montreal can catch them the way Montreal's been playing, but Montreal's got a game in hand on them. So more than likely, it's going to be Toronto, Montreal, and Edmonton, Winnipeg. And home ice advantage with Edmonton and Winnipeg really doesn't. I mean, there's no fans in the stand, so I don't know if it really matters anything. But Montreal will provide a tough match for the Leafs and they play them 4 times in the last 8 games of the season. So, those, if you don't think those would be precursors for the playoffs, I mean, that I think Montreal is probably going to try to not goon it up, but they'll probably try to be very sandpapery against the league. But Corey Perry is going to be throwing some barbs, I'm sure, if he plays in these games, and we get a chance to look at Cole Caulfield 4 times. Now the West. I mean, the race here is. I mean, we actually have. I don't. Okay, tell me if you think that Arizona is still in a race with St. Louis when St. Louis has 3 games in hand.
I don't think they are.
Yeah, I don't think they're. St.
Louis is starting to figure it out. Tarasenko.
No, I mean, it doesn't feel like it. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, St. Louis, I think, has enough. Yeah. I feel like that. I think the West is pretty solid. I mean, it's still possible, of course. Just like it is out here, but now it feels less likely.
Colorado could catch Vegas. They're 4 points behind. They have a game in hand.
Actually, Mike, you need to rephrase something you said, because now the chat room thinks you're thinking that the Leafs are going to sweep the Canadians.
Oh my God!
We'll look at 4 games against Caulfield. That's not. You didn't mean they were going to sweep
4 games in the regular season. They played them 4 times. Jesus.
Yeah.
They thought you were talking playoffs. So
No. I think it's going to be a long series if it's Montreal.
Yeah.
I just wanted to correct that. So
yes, thank you for.
It's been a while since Toronto's won a playoff series, guys. So until they win a playoff series.
You think I'm being confident for Toronto winning a series?
Yeah, no, until they win a playoff series, Mike is not going to pick them probably to win a playoff series.
Yeah, please. I am
at this point.
And I am blocking your tweet, your text.
I've learned. I won't do that to you again. I promise. I won't.
Now the thing
yes, you will. You know you will.
Yes, yeah,
I won't. I am not you guys. Like, you guys are evil and mean. I'm not that. I'm just throwing out hope for people. And
I'm a harmless fuzzball.
I'm just saying.
But okay, in the West, if you accept that St. Louis is the fourth place team, because do you think Vegas really wants to play St. Louis?
Well, let's see. So they've done so far. Vegas is taking care of St. Louis pretty easily this year so far.
Yeah,
I mean that's of all the teams. So Vegas against St. Louis, they're averaging 1.5 points a game. One against Colorado, so it's they're even with Colorado against St. Louis, and then Minnesota. Minnesota is the team that the Vegas doesn't want to play, according to at least how the regular season's gone.
Well, right now it's Vegas, St. Louis, and Colorado, Minnesota, and that's going to be a challenge for Colorado because Minnesota is not going to be a cakewalk. So, I think Colorado should be favored. I think they'll probably win that series, but it's going to be a tougher challenge than Vegas, St. Louis, based on what you just said. And Binnington's won a cup. They're a pretty decent team, but they haven't had a really good year. They've underachieved, but they could turn things around just by showing up in the postseason. So
they really can. They really, really, truthfully can. I wanted to go back for a second to one thing you were talking about before, because you wanted to see who wants to play who in the East. So it's interesting. So Washington, the team they played best against, we're looking at Boston, the Islanders, and the Penguins. They've played all of them pretty well, but they haven't dominated any of them. Washington's been pretty even. They've played the best they've played against is against the Islanders, but that's just slightly better than Pittsburgh or the Bruins. The Bruins are the team that's played Washington the hardest, but that doesn't necessarily mean much. Boston, on the other hand, so Boston has played, like we said, they played Washington pretty tough. But they have not, and they played Pittsburgh. They've actually averaged 1.33 points a game against the Capitals and the Penguins, but only 0.6 points a game against the Islanders. So the Islanders have had the Bruins number. So the Bruins don't want to play the Islanders. The Capitals don't want to play the Bruins. The Islanders don't want to play the Penguins. That's the team the Islanders don't want to play, because the Penguins have had the Islanders number, and the Penguins, let's see, they don't want to play the Bruins. Okay, so that the Bruins have that's the team that's played them the toughest. Because the Penguins have actually had their way pretty much with the Islanders and the Capitals. So the Penguins don't want to play Bruins. It's all over the map there. It's every team. Who knows? There's no rhyme or reason to that. No. Boston maybe has had the best record against the other three, if you take anything like that, but it's not much.
Now, here's the only what I deem as reasonable and exciting race for a playoff spot, and that's Nashville and Dallas in the Central.
Yeah,
because Dallas is down by 2 points; they have 2 games in hand. Nashville's continued to play. They're playing slightly above 500, but in this division, Carolina is definitely rooting for the Nashville Predators, because do you think Carolina wants to face Dallas in the first round? No way. But
they've dominated both of them in the regular season, though. Really, dominated them. They've beaten Nashville every time, and they've beaten Dallas every time but once.
This is going to be a different Dallas when Sagan comes back, and and this is.
I'll just say it like this. Does anybody trust Nashville's goaltending in the playoffs not to give up at least 3 goals in a game? And their defense is excellent. If they didn't have the defense they'd be giving up 4 or 5 every game.
The defense last night wasn't too good. I that game. Defense was getting that Florida though. The thing about the Panthers that's crazy is that I don't know this for a fact, but just from watching a bunch of hockey this year, I feel like the Florida Panthers outshoot their opponents more than any team I've seen.
Well,
they do. They have to, because of their goaltending, or because of Bobrovsky. But they doubled up. They were doubling up on the Predators last night. The Predators were ahead, or it was 3-3, but the shots were 30 to 15. It's the crazy. It's just ridiculous.
Let's talk about this though, because they pulled Bob for the third period, and Spencer Knight came in, and even though he wasn't super tested in that period, he still was 7 for 7 or 8 for 8. Q is going to cause a problem here, because it now does seem like Bob may not even be the starter for the playoffs anymore, and
it's going to be Dredger.
Dredger, and now, but it also seems like Bob may not even be the first guy in if Dredger has a problem in the playoffs.
And last night it was complete shock for that division, because Tampa, Florida, and Carolina all won, and Nashville and Dallas lost, so everything stayed basically the same.
The thing that's tough about Bob, and watching Bob play last night, and watching Bob play a lot, is he is still really good in tight, but he is getting destroyed outside. Like just like that, like and his rebound control is really bad. And that like those, but he's still like he'll still make these incredible saves side to side and make some really nice plays. But it seems like his quickness to move from angle to angle is just not there. That's where he's getting beaten up badly, and teams know this. The teams aren't sending it down low against him at all. They're keeping it out. They're keeping it up top, and that was actually Bobrovsky's weakness when he first came into the NHL, which is pretty funny. I remember that being the case with the Flyers. Outside, he had a hard time. Inside, he was great.
Yeah, and I just out of curiosity, I was looking up what he was at right now. His save percentage is .905. If you look at the last 3 years of him in Columbus, .931, .921, .913. So he declined 3 years and still got a 7-year, $70 million contract. His 2 years in Florida, .900, and this year .905.
And .905 is below league average.
The league average is around .911 or .912.
I think
That's a little lower this year. I thought I heard .908, but yeah.
When I look at him, when you look at it like from a just trying a technical perspective, and I've been trying to figure out why that is, Mike, like why he was so much better in Columbus than he is here and in Florida.
Didn't he have a hip surgery?
But he's had that going on his whole career. I don't know if he had hip, but he has. But the thing about Columbus's defense is they play a different style than Florida's defense, and that.
Right, I was going to say. I mean, they're playing. Russ, how much is a Tortorella-led team defense? How much was that? In New York with Lundqvist, with a great goaltender, you can get to the conference final on that alone.
Yeah.
I mean, it is that, but it's also a style like the style Bob plays is very calculated in some ways, especially on the outside shots.
Bob had surgery in hip surgery in 2010.
Right.
That's way.
Yeah, but you never know when it's going to take its toll. Like you don't know.
No, that's true. But I think that he is a thinking goalie to the point where with Columbus, he knew the shots his defensemen were going to give him. He knew the defense were going to pick off those passes that went across, and he really could focus in on just making the saves on those outside shots. First and foremost.
I'll give you an example. Okay, so last year in the playoff, Columbus had a defense of Jones, Werenski, Gavrikov, Savard, Nudavara, and Ryan Murray. And I think that was the same defense that they had in front of Bobrovsky the previous year.
that when the Tampa year, when they beat Tampa.
Okay, so in front of Bobrovsky last night was Keith Yandel, who is never going to be mistaken for Rod Langway.
Right.
Kerstad, who's a rookie.
Right.
Gustav Forsling, who's basically a borderline AHL, NHLer. Mackenzie Weegar, Nudavara, and Brandon Montour. Right. That's not even in the same stratosphere as the Blue Jackets, and we're not even talking about defensive concept. We're just talking about the players.
Yeah. I have found 4 or 5 different instances with Bob for groin injuries too, and done to Jonathan Quick, like it's
it takes its
toll. Him to a halt. Yeah.
Especially with your lateral movement, but post to post.
That signing just really just it's such an issue with Florida. That is such a and obviously like there's not much you can do with it. I don't know how buying it out even works.
No. Well, Bill. I mean, first of all, it's not Bill Zito's responsibility because he inherited it.
Yeah, but it is now,
It is now.
And I've even said that to him in the past. I've said, "Well, that's not your responsibility." He's like, sure as hell is my responsibility. That's what he'll say, because that's where he is. That's his now. That's part of the job, So he takes that on. It's a really tricky one. Sure.
Here is if you bought out Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got 5 years left at $10 million per, and the problem is that most of the next 3 years it's more than 50% signing bonus.
Okay.
There is really the over 10 years. The first 2 years is 5.8 million, so you save 4.25. The next 3 years is 6.8 million, so you save 3.25, and then the remaining 5 years is 1.8 million.
Well,
that's you're
better. Obviously, it does help you, but.
Yeah.
but you're still paying a lot of money, and you're paying a lot of money for nothing in Florida, which they can't really do. They have to, but the only other thing is to get them to play better. And I don't, but when you look at what they have now, they've got a really tough decision coming up with Dredger, because or Draker, however you want to say it.
Yeah,
they have a tough decision with him because he's a UFA, and he's played well enough that he's going to get offers.
Well, I'll say this. I think the solution for Zito, and you can ask him this off the record. I think the solution for Zito is going to basically be we've got to survive the next 2 years with Bobrovsky, where there's not a lot of savings on the cap with the heavy signing bonus. But after 2 more years, with 1 year with heavy signing bonus, the buyout will only be 6 years. The money will go down, and Knight will be 22, 23 years old, ready to take
a little older.
Yeah,
I haven't talked about this at all with him, and so I have no inside information. But my guess is based on what I've seen on this one, they are going to let Drager go to free agency, and they're going to let him go someplace else, and that's why we're seeing Spencer Knight. That's why we're seeing that ahead of time, so they kind of have an idea of where they are with that, to know whether or not they have to go out and get like another person to play with Bob next year, who can either be like a 1A or what have you.
I think they'll buy out Bob in his last year.
What was that?
In his last year, they'll buy out Bob.
Right, but I think
they can probably buy him out 3 years from now, like Mike was saying. It'll be a lot easier.
I think they'll buy him out. I think they'll buy him out after 2 more seasons. So after
2 more, probably. You might be right on that.
Then it does change. While we're on this division, my blog today was something I've been meaning to write for a while, and I think it's an interesting topic to discuss for a little bit here, and that is what we've seen. The law of unintended consequences is always one of my favorite things. And we saw these divisions get thrown together this year for COVID reasons. There was and in the past we've always had whenever divisions get thrown together, there's always like someone complaining, like Detroit's complaining, or usually Detroit's complaining because they seem to get thrown around a lot, or Columbus is complaining because but this year no one complained. Everyone just accepted the fact that these divisions made the most sense because of travel and where it was and everything like that. Everybody just went with it for a year. We all decided that. But what we've really seen is from the rivalries in the South, and especially what we're going to see in these coming playoffs, is really, I think, the beginnings of something that the NHL has needed from the Southeastern hockey teams for a while, which is a real, true fan buy-in of rivalries. And we don't see it as much as we want to right now because the fans aren't out there, but man, if there was full fans for these games, and if you had, like if you had the tailgates going on outside that all these places would have, I think you'd really have something. And I think
here's where I implore the teams and the league to create these rivalries in social media and online. You could get things pretty stirred up if you want to, and I would do it.
You can, and I think they will. But to me, I thought about why it is. I've always felt like that. The Southern teams have, and really, when I thought about the Northern cities, like we think about Boston, the Northern cities in the U.S., Boston, Philly, New York, Chicago, Detroit. Those are all cities whose sports character has been derived from professional sports, right? Where in the South, where you're looking at these cities down there, that you're looking, obviously the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Bears, all the different, all those teams, long running hatred from professional sports in the North. But in the South, and you look when you start to look at Nashville or Charlotte or Miami or even Dallas, you're really looking at people who it's been derived from college sports, the combination of the SEC, like I was thinking about like the SEC.
Everybody can tailgate in their yards. And if I'm the Panthers and I'm the Tampa Bay Lightning, I send people out and I start videoing the fans in their natural habitat going crazy. Like you could do that. You could piece it all together. I would come up with a campaign, like as an example for this series, if I were in charge of the Tampa Bay Lightning account, and I would say 5 things every day what's great about the Tampa Bay Lightning and why they're the best team in Florida, right? And the 5th thing would always be because we have the Stanley Cup. That would always be number 5 every single time.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I think that, think about the rivalry, think about the hatred that these teams, the hatred that you need for a rivalry is like to hate the other city, and it's hard. It's hard for people in Tampa to hate Toronto or Buffalo or Boston. And these things are not, there's not,
okay.
It has over time developed a little bit, but let me finish my thought here real quick. And, but where the University of Florida, Texas A&M, University of Miami, North Carolina State.
Auburn, Alabama, yeah.
Think about all that. So these are really, I mean, college sports, and we even see it in Columbus, like that there's college sports can dominate a city, and it can absolutely. So to me, we need to find a way to keep these divisions together. And I think I did it. Not together, not together, but these teams together. So I wanted to go into throw, Mike, you give your point, but I wanted to throw my new divisions around at you for a second to save some of these rivalries a little bit. They're kind of interesting, I think. So go ahead, Mike, you finish your thought there. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, when it comes to these rivalries, I mean, the Lightning and the Panthers have been in existence for over 25 years. Closer to 30. Yeah. And even though they've been in the same division, right, the rivalries aren't there. So I don't know how much you can really put into a divisional realignment other than the fact that, okay, we're talking about the difference right now in the Eastern Conference based on what the GM, what the league decides in terms of the type of schedule they're going to set up for the few going forward. Yeah. The difference between playing each other 4 times, 2 home, 2 on the road, or 3 times. Yeah. And I think Mike, what you're saying makes, I agree with you, but the other thing about Florida is, it's not, even though it is far south, the Florida itself is a different entity than the south of the United States. You know this. And it's like, it has its own, it's very much a northern transplanted state, where in Nashville and Charlotte and Dallas, you're looking at a much more of a local type feel than you are. I mean, a lot of the Florida Panthers fans are ex-Rangers fans, But there's literally no, like, for example, like in the NFL, there is literally no rivalry at all between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins, because one's in the NFC, one's in the AFC. It's like, now, Russ, there is a rivalry a little bit between the Giants and the Jets because they're in the same town, but it's really not a little bit. It's like, okay, they play each other in the preseason
and every 4 years,
and they compete for coverage. But there's not even in the same. Their rivalry is not the same as the Rangers and the Islanders.
No, it's not even close.
Not even close.
No, it's a very different world. I agree, and I think that does play into rivalries are obviously built in the playoffs, which we've known about before. And Carolina for a while had a little rivalry with the Sabres when those guys had that really great series and things like that. But we haven't seen really yet even like a really great series with, obviously, Tampa and Florida have never played each other in the playoffs. So I think that, and they're totally. There is different as night and day, the eastern part of Florida and the western part of Florida. So it's like Florida is its own its own little country, and it's really bizarre. But give it so to me. But I think that there can be like obviously the University of Miami fans, Florida State fans. These are people who are they definitely do have their problems with people from Alabama, people from Texas. That is a real long driven thing. So let me try to put these divisions together to save not some of the northern stuff too, because some of the new rivalries we've seen develop here, I'm trying to find a way to keep. So this is my new South division, I'm calling it. Okay. So my South division, and it's not all the South because some of these teams are, further up, but these are all teams that basically, these are college teams. And pretty much this is all built around college strongholds because the University of Maryland too. So Tampa, Florida, Nashville, Dallas, Carolina, those 5 teams, obviously, like we talked about, these are 5 teams right now. So to come up with the other 3 teams, Washington, to me, it's Washington, Columbus, and St. Louis, which are 3 more. They're 3 other college-y areas. Like Washington's a big college area. Obviously, University of Maryland. They also play down there. University of Virginia has its serious rivalries.
Georgetown's the biggest one there.
Right. University of Virginia is a serious battle with North Carolina in basketball. There's some serious stuff there too, right? So that to me is the South. It's those 5 teams. And, but where it gets difficult, obviously, is then you go to like the North. To me, the North, here's my North for what it's worth. Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Buffalo, Ottawa. Those 5 teams, like we know we've had before. But instead of going beyond that, I'm going to Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Calgary, and I'm putting those 3 in there too. Because what you're doing is you're the distance between Toronto, Winnipeg, and Toronto, Edmonton is shorter than Toronto and Tampa. To me, like you're distance wise, you're not, there's no difference there.
I honestly think that if you're going to go with like the structure that you're talking about, a Southern division with Nashville, that if you're going to go a Northern division, then it's going to be the 5 teams that you mentioned: Buffalo, Boston, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. and the 3 New York teams. Because,
Right.
and then you have Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Columbus.
Yeah, but you have to come up with other Southern teams, and to me, so it's difficult. Like, you're trying to still keep some of the rivalries that we already had going. So to me, like the hope of Vegas, Colorado, Arizona, that trio staying together because they are in the same area is something you try to do.
I'll tell you something right now. Winnipeg, Calgary, and Edmonton will not be enthused about playing those 5 teams in the East because of the travel. It's going to be you have to have those.
They travel a lot now. Colorado. Think about where they're going to. Their distances out there are very different than the distances here. So, like, you can do a tour here. You can do a tour here of those cities. And I mean, the distance between Montreal, Boston, is what, like 5 hours. The difference between
Boston, it's like a 2.5 hour flight.
Okay, so but I'm saying if you're even to bus it, I'm just driving it. So I'm just saying there's the distances out west though, from Edmonton to Calgary is what, 3 hours right there. The 3 hour drive, and then you go and then Edmonton, whenever they come down to play the teams in that division that are in their division, like Colorado and who else and who else would be down there? I'm trying to remember the old divisions down in my mind.
Dallas, St. Louis,
the West Coast teams. They're in a division with LA. That's further. LA's way further from Edmonton than Toronto or Boston. It's like you're talking about the distances are the same. I mean, the time zones are not. The time zones are different, but the distances are the same.
Right. And that's a factor, Act, because when you're talking about them starting most of their games at 5 p.m. If they're playing East Coast teams, they're starting games at 5 p.m. Mountain Time or 6 p.m. Central Time. That's not conducive to good ratings.
What's interesting is, Anthony wrote here, Caps Canes is a good rivalry, but when I lived in Virginia, there were no Canes, and so it really still was Caps Rangers, like it just was.
Yeah, the Caps and then we've had the Caps Penguins for years, and everyone's like, you can't get that together. But that really is built upon Ovechkin and Crosby, and I think that's
what I'm saying. This is all pre-Ovechkin.
It's actually a killer to the South Division is the fact that there is no team in Atlanta because
and you're right, and that would have and honestly, if the South Division had existed without, because University of Georgia is another gigantic sports team down there that everybody that plays Tennessee and plays North Carolina and plays
the Thrashers goalie just played the other night.
So
he played in his Thrashers gear.
So the East becomes for me, the East becomes a little bit different. It becomes the Islanders, Rangers, Penguins, Devils, Flyers, right? And I forgot to put the Flyers in my blog. I just realized it's pretty funny. But then it also becomes Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota.
You almost would be better off because if we look at all these divisional structures, you can come up with 5 teams in a geographic area for say for example, so you got Tampa, Florida, Nashville, Washington, and Carolina. Okay. Yeah. Those are all within a reasonable geographic setup. But then there's 3 other teams you got to fit into that division to have there's divisional setups of 8 teams. So what you might have to do if you want to really go regional is have 6 divisions of 5 teams with one division having an extra team. That might
32 divisions now, right? Because 32 teams. So yeah, you're right. But I think that it does make sense. You can definitely regionalize them into 5 teams quite a bit. The NHL does have these groups of 5 teams sort of together.
So then you would have a Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New York, New Jersey, Islanders is one division. The five, Boston, Ottawa, to Montreal, Toronto, Buffalo, another division. But you'll have to maybe fit Columbus into that New York, Pennsylvania division.
Right.
So that would work more. I mean, it would be an imbalanced schedule, but it would work more geographically and in terms of regions.
Yeah, you'd have a better chance of getting those rivalries that they're thinking about building.
And then you go to a conference playoff format instead of a divisional format because you can't have a divisional playoff format with 3 divisions.
Right. You have to come up with something, and I think that's not a bad way of going either, because then you could get like the 3 California teams, Seattle and Vancouver, like that's a completely West Coast, like Pacific Ocean division. Basically, all those teams along the Pacific Ocean are right there. So, and then you have.
It's going to take a while though. They're not going to have a natural rival. They're not.
Well, no, Vancouver is their rival. I mean, that's like
it's really not though. It's not going to be from everybody. From what everybody's telling me, it's really not going to be. And there's going to be so many Vancouver fans in the crowd at their games that it's really not going to be.
Well, it's Buffalo and Toronto is what it is. I mean, the reason that we haven't had a team in Seattle is because Vancouver fought like Toronto fought to keep a team out of Buffalo. Like that was the whole.
I get that. But people really don't think there's only people from a certain area, from the certain part of BC that are going to go to Seattle anyhow. And I don't think they're going to look at it that way.
You think they're just going to be Seattle fans then, those BC people?
It will just be Seattle fans. Some Vancouver fans who, want to go from, and I forget what I was told, maybe south part of the state, something like that. They'll go down every once in a while if they can't get tickets, but it's not going to be a fierce rivalry.
It depends on whether they're in the same division or not. If they are, then I think they are. That's the plan. So
they will be, yeah.
Well, they will be, but I still don't know if that's going to matter.
Well, I mean, I do know that like we've been told about how BC fans go down to Mariners games when they play the Blue Jays. I think you'll have a couple thousand. Now it all depend on the Canucks being good enough for teams to drive 2 hours from Vancouver, like we took that bus trip in 2019, Russ. Yeah. Whether people would be willing to drive down a couple hours and go through the border, and believe me, the border when things were a lot more normal was a challenge to get through because it's going to be. I think it might be worth people's whiles, but maybe not early early because Seattle will be an expansion team, and probably every time you go down, they're going to win.
I think here's the thing. The chat room wants to say it's a natural rival, whatever. It's not, because if you look at Carolina, it took them forever to have a natural rival. Detroit, I think, was the team they hated for a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
they played Detroit a couple times, and then they played in the Stanley Cup Finals. Right?
You can't invent rivalries. They happen by osmosis. And I'll give you the perfect example: the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Doesn't make any sense that is a rivalry, except for, everybody is jealous of Miami's weather in Buffalo. But in the 70s, the Miami Dolphins were, a great team under Don Shula, and the Bills lost every time to them for a decade. And then the flip happened in the late 80s and 90s with Marino losing to Jim Kelly all the time. The DNA of that rivalry is still there. 25 years.
States sometimes don't have rivalries. The Rangers and the Islanders have no rivalry with the Sabres. None.
Right. No, they've none. But they've never been in the same division, really. They've never played each other a bunch. Never played each other in a playoff series. They actually do. I remember Buffalo Islanders
in the playoffs. Absolutely. Yeah. The Islanders played the Sabres for sure. I watched it when I was like 10, 11 years old. So, but again, they never. I believe
that was the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs. I think they lost the Islanders in the playoff series.
Yeah, that could be right. But they never really had a rivalry, and they're in the same state, and they're so it's like
Philadelphia, 2011, they lost to Philadelphia.
So it's not always guaranteed.
Didn't they? But the Ryan. No, that was it. Was that after that? Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to think of the Ryan Smith year when Ryan Smith was traded to the Islanders. What year was that?
That was like 07.
07, yeah, you're right.
I'll look, but
that's when the Islanders.
He's saying he wrote about the Potomac rivalry, but that took time to build up. They weren't natural rivals. They weren't all of a sudden that first season that Carolina was in play a rival.
Yeah, I mean it's a long way from Washington to Carolina.
Yeah, Ryan. Wow. Ryan Smith, I'm like Rain Man. Ryan Smith was traded February 27th of 07 to the Islanders. So
I remember the day well.
I do too. I thought that was a great trade for him, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it turned out not to be a very good trade at all. And the day I was at Sportsnet. There definitely is there's a no question is a rivalry there between Carolina and Washington, but it's not super strong at this point. And forever, like you're right in terms of certain teams actually become they hated like the Red Wings. Everybody hates the Red Wings. For a while, it was like St. Louis, Chicago, Nashville, Columbus.
Right.
I mean, I just wrote something about the Kraken a little while ago, and I said the first team that sort of does a dirty hit to their best player or beats them 3 times in a row or something, that'll be the team that the fans hate to start. And then you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you'll get. I think their hope is you get a San Jose Seattle rivalry going. That's but that's not really close together either. I mean, the distances out west are so different than we're used to here. It's just not.
Think about how much the Devils and the Devils fans should have hated when Wayne Gretzky said they were a Mickey Mouse organization, and it really didn't do anything on the ice.
Yeah, let's just say this: the NHL did not put a team in Seattle because of potential rivalries. They did it because of money. They did it purely because of money. It's a market. They think that in the Pacific Northwest, once the team becomes good, it'll draw.
It's too. It's the hockey history too that also plays into it.
The Seattle,
it has one for sure.
Right, it has one. Yes.
So I got before we get out of here today, we're gonna leave. We're gonna end the show pretty soon, and then go do our other thing. You guys want to watch it? I put that if you would. I did already. I did already. Okay, so make sure you got that link in the chat room, guys. We'll put it up again before we leave. We can go and watch the show after this. But I've been collecting hockey digests on eBay. I went on eBay and I was like, just trying to find like people who are selling lots of cheap hockey digests.
Because you don't have enough junk in your house,
right? So this one, November 1983. There's a cover here. It's pretty cool. So it's got Billy Smith on the cover.
Nice.
Can you see it? I guess is the person who sold it to me. I should maybe take his thing off of there. It came from Detroit, Michigan, which I guess is where. Yep, it would be pretty fun if it was like Kevin Allen on here.
Kevin Allen, there you go.
Right, but Billy Smith, can his Islanders make it 5 straight? That's the cover story.
Yeah, at that point, I was nauseous about reading about the Islanders in Newsday. Trust me.
Yeah, so when you go through this, this is a lot of fun. Like it's amazing how this 83 is almost 38 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's like this is how old this is. But it's just the really fun articles, and then I like the advertisements in the back too. So we're gonna do some more of this in the future. But they're really just like it's fun to go through and see the different. I forgot something it had in the back here was the list of all
the Modell's ads.
Oh yeah. All the
I just the other day I found a 1989 newspaper in my attic, and one of the workers found it. I didn't even live in the house then, and it had a Crazy Eddie ad, so I put that up on my Instagram. Like that stuff.
This is what in the back of the hockey digest. What this is? Sorry. What this is? Jeez, I am a mess. I apologize today. But this is what we call the internet back then, kids. This is like the list of NHL All-Star teams by years and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Back of this, this is before we could search on the internet. This was like an amazing thing to get that.
That's when you bought the guide and record book from the NHL.
Yeah. Yep. And all the there's the playoffs from the 82. The awesome Islanders patiently destroyed Edmonton. That's the cover there. Pretty crazy. So that was we'll go through some more of those as I find some fun, like who's better than in those as well. Because we never got to talk.
The last time the Islanders won the Stanley Cup? Never mind. I'm sorry. We'll move on.
We never talked about my topic that I wrote the other day, which really got a lot of play on the internet. Which was who was better right now, Austin Matthews or Nathan? Austin Matthews or Terry Panarin. That was my thing. Austin Matthews or Panarin, which is
I think Matthews is better.
I think a fun debate to have. I think Matthews is
a good debate.
Slightly better. Panarin has more points per game.
Yeah.
Does get a lot more assists, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think Matthews is more of a force in games. There are times in a game where you could go 2 periods and never see Panarin, and all of a sudden he starts scoring in the 3rd period. Matthews is sort of ever present more than Panarin.
Yeah, I mean they're closer than I think people think, and my point of it is to try to because obviously Matthews gets a lot of press because he's in Toronto and all that. Panarin should get more press because he's in New York, but he's just starting to, I think. But this year I think was the first year that you actually really saw it from Panarin. People getting a lot of really good interest in saying, hey, maybe he's an MVP candidate if they made the playoffs. So who knows? It's possible. All right, that's all the time we have for today, guys. Remember to come in to go to. Can you watch this on Sportsology? You be able to watch on Sportsology?
No, it's not going to be watched. It's audio.
Yeah, we're giving.
You're going to get one chance to watch it, and then it goes straight audio.
Right, we're giving everybody.
Okay.
We're giving everybody who watches us on the Buzzcast the link so they can watch, but it's going to be on SoundCloud. So once we convert it to the sound file, we're going to delete it.
It'll be on SoundCloud and Spotify and a few things and Sportsology too. Yep.
All right, cool. So come over and watch. We're going to be doing it right now, and we'll be there in 5 minutes or what time are we going to do it? Just do it in 5 minutes. Let's do it now. All right, cool. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you